All right, there you go, guys. All right, there you go, guys.
Master LC on the beat. I need you to get low. To all about to get low. No running away to get low. A better well get low. The way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me. Oh wow, oh wow, wow, oh wow. You get your star, I get my star. Oh wow, don't envy me for my star. Oh wow. Running mortgage from my shop, wow. I get oh, wow. What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You get your star, I get my star, wow. Don't envy me for my star, wow. Running mortgage from my shop, wow. I get oh, wow. What the hell to you? Then why say it more? I say it more. I will get it. 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 The way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me. Oh wow. Wow, wow, wow. You get your star, I get my star. Wow. Don't envy me for my star. Wow. Running mortgage from my shop. Wow. I get oh, wow. What the hell to you? I'm leaving you to get low. To all about to get low. No running away to get low, man. A better well, get low. The way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me, the way you can do me. Oh wow, oh wow, wow, oh wow. You get your star, I get my star. Oh wow, don't envy me for my star. Oh wow, running mortgage from my shop. Oh wow, I get oh, wow. What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You get your star, I get my star. Wow. Don't envy me for my star. Wow. Running mortgage from my shop. Wow. I get wow. What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? What the hell to you? Now what the hell to you? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You get your star, I get my star. Wow. Don't envy me for my star. Wow. Running mortgage from my shop. Wow. I get wow.
I said all the flow that she's supposed to work.
The people can feel in my heat.
Hey, what you better now? Try.
I love the music.
Her name is not even on the list.
Well, on the mix.
Give for my woman.
Quebec, what play you there?
Can't see my woman.
Quebec, what play you there?
Somebody help me from my woman.
She under the ground.
Can't see my woman.
She under the horse.
Go Sierra Leone. Can't see my woman. Sininga. I can't see my woman. I go Cotonou. Care for my woman. Why can't a woman? She can't say that to us. Why can't a woman? Every day she on the run. I'm running, I can't see my woman. I'm looking, I can't find my woman. I'm looking for my woman.
Quebec, where play you air?
Can't see my woman.
Quebec, where play you air?
Somebody help me find my woman.
She under the ground.
Can't see my woman.
She under the horse.
I don't know what to do. Investigation. I don't know what to go.
We gonna call the police?
I call the police. He say he not see my woman. I go to mommy. She say she not see my woman. I call mama. She say she not see my woman. I call papa. He say he not see my woman. Who got my woman? If I not see my woman, pacha, got trouble. I'm looking for my woman.
Quebec, where play you air?
Can't see my woman.
Quebec, where play you air?
Somebody help me for my woman.
She under the ground.
Can't see my woman.
She under the horse.
Kuku jumuku, you nice, you know.
Don't put my music here, guys. Give me a second here. Kind of interruption. All right, guys, please share with your friends so we can have a beautiful conversation tonight with one of the brightest young guys from Liberia. Let me try this one.
Now you know this is never the episode. I'm back in life. away. When you say away, I'm a joy mom when it's well. I'm a yesua. Oh, no, see a you on your Jula Mohammed. No, sorry for your Mille Mohammed when it's well. I'm away. I'm a yesua. I'm away. Oh, nobody is away. Nobody is away. Nobody is away. Oh, nobody is away. Yeah, one is away. God, one is away. God, one is away. Yes, I know someone is away. I'm away. I'm Yesua. Mom, now. Yes, I'm more now. Come some of you get out my own wallet. I'm Yesua. Mom, now. Mom, now. Mom, now. Mom, now. Come up and walk out. You never wanted to be. I'm away. I'm Yesua. Wasn't your calling Monu? Wasn't your calling Monu? I will let Abaniso. Abaniso Monu on your Abaniso. Abaniso. Abaniso Monu on your wasn't your calling Monu on your Abaniso. Wasn't your calling Monu on your Abaniso. Abaniso. Abaniso Monu on your Abaniso, Abaniso, Abaniso,
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice of Sino in the Diaspora with Doug. Sorry for the esoteric, coming to you live from Prosper Park, Pennsylvania. Give me a second here. Let me do a little sound check here to make sure if the sound is okay from your end. Just give me a thumb up on your side. Let me see here. Coming to you live. Give me a second here. Let me do a little sound check here to make sure. All right, my sound seems to be pretty good. All right, so guys, I want you to do me a big favor as you get on, please. Just share the link for me. Tonight, we are about to have a brilliant young man tonight on the platform as a special guest. His name is Laraamand Nyonton. Laraamand Nyonton is our special guest tonight. So I want you to do me a favor, just hit that share button, share with your friends. And the reason why I want you to do that is because your friends are not my friends. And, so if you have something good, all you have to do is just share with the other people to participate. And Laraamand is backstage right now. You'll be with us shortly. So I will give another musical break interlude while we're waiting for the viewers in a little bit. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to wait for you guys. But Laraamand, I'll bring you on shortly. But let me do this last music that I wanted to share with the guys here while I do something on the backstage here. And I will bring you right back on. I'll bring you on.
Buddy made it.
Baby, sexy and back. Tuck it, look at her front. Tuck it, look at her back. Tuck it, look at her side. When you see Juju, you know that. Did you see Juju and holla? Did you see Juju and run away? Run. Baby, making some US. Whoa. That girl carrying some US. Whoa. Wanna sexy, come over now. Sexy mama, yeah, yo. Laga, leave it so. Look at you. Look at you, na. Oh, back on the chest on the play. They play on the dance stand. On yeah, you will get away colors. You will get away colors. And I will get away colors. You will respect. Capital A, capital B. You will respect. Why you in the money, child? You carry 10, oh, 10. You will respect. 10, oh, 10. Now who can pop on now, baby? Let it try it now, baby. Now who won't compete now, baby? Let it try it now, baby. Tuck it, look at her back. Tuck it, look at her front. Tuck it, look at her waist. Tuck it, look at her hips. Baby, pam, I told my tuck it. Tuck it, tuck it. Someday she let go be in G. Someday she let go be in dress. Someday she let go be in step. Red, white, and blue. International beauty, international body, international baby, international business. They get too expensive, I'm more too attractive, I'm more too productive. You will respect, capital A, capital B. You will respect, why you in the money, child? You carry 10 all over 10. You will respect 10 all over 10. Now who can pop on now, baby? Let it try it now, baby. Now who won't challenge now, baby? Let it try it now, baby. Tuck it, look at her back. Tuck it, look at her front. Tuck it, look at her waist. Tuck it, look at her hips. Baby, pam, I told my tuck it. Tuck it, man, you are beautiful. Show your beauty. True, you are beautiful. Baby, you tell it. Show your beauty. Man, you are beautiful. She get that. Freddie Barrow. You're a beat that sing too much.
J&B Records.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice of Sino in the diaspora with Doc Sayapota Esoteric coming to you live from Prosper Park, Pennsylvania. Like I told you from the beginning of the show, my special guest tonight is Laraamand Nyonton, a brilliant young Liberian in the diaspora. He's basically residing in the state of Pennsylvania, and specifically the city of Philadelphia. And he wants to talk about the PAPD. What is that? Okay, when he gets on, he's going to break that down for you. But without further ado, I like to use the golden opportunity given to me on the platform to welcome my guests on screen. We have 18 minutes beyond time, so let me get you on here so we can start a conversation. In the meantime, you can follow us as well on YouTube. Just go put a Madison Freeman, and the show is also there. You can watch it from your TV and stuff like that. All right, let me bring that Laraamand on right now. Hey, Laraamand. Hello.
Okay, is the light
now,
okay?
Yeah, now I'm hearing you now. I couldn't hear you at first.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy tonight to come to you again on the platform so we can discuss all things Liberia. Let's see. Is everything okay back there?
Yeah, I think so. You hearing me clearly?
Yeah, audio is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, like I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, it's for some reason your image is a little bit blurry, but it's okay.
Let me see.
You know, you are not in Africa. So you shouldn't have a.
Yeah. Like over me or something.
Maybe it's an angle. It's okay. That's fine.
All right.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, again, this is my special guest tonight. Is Laraamand Nyonton. He is a former congressional contestant, Maserati County Electoral District number 12. He participated in 2017. But we are not coming to discuss tonight his political effort, but we are going to discuss the PAPD. So, Laraamand, welcome to the platform.
Thank you, Esther. It's an honor to be here and interact with Liberians from all walks of life, both in the diaspora and back home. And I want to say thank you for the show. I think it's my first time appearing on your show, so it's something more than an honor for me.
Oh yeah, I'm excited as well to have you. I'm elated to have a great young man on the platform tonight to talk to us. But otherwise, how are you doing?
Well, man, I spoke to two persons that were appearing on your show. They said, that man is philosophically grounded. You ready for that show? I said, come on, man.
No, I'm flattered. I'm flattered. You've been on a lot of shows, like international show bigger than this one. So this one, like children play.
Yeah. But I'm proud. I'm proud of the work you do, and beyond as a Liberian, not just a relative of you, but as a Liberian who's passionate about the direction of Liberia. I think is a call for all of us in our generation to take action.
Thank you. All right, so Laraamand, before we get into the discussion, maybe I'd like you to do a formal introduction of yourself, so that the people can know. I just give a few words. But you will do a better job than I would do. So I like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself formally.
It's often difficult to do that, but I will try. So I'm Laraamand Nyonton. For those who do not know me, and for those who do, it's obvious. I am a Liberian. I hail from Sino County, specifically from Nyonton District, Sino County. I have been passionate about the direction of my country, a country that have been through a whole lot from different forms of constitutional interrogums to civil conflict, now to post-conflict recovery. Um, I went to high school in the ELW community, Pinsville. I matriculated after high school to the African Methodist Episcopal University. And right after graduation, just a couple of months later, I had the opportunity of traveling to the United States. Um, when I first traveled to the United States, it was on the basis of representing the government of Liberia, the young people of Liberia at the 14th Annual Youth Assembly at the United Nations. And then an unfortunate situation happened, which was Ebola. And so I had to stay in the US as a result of the Ebola. But here I am. I have always been passionate about change, about transformation, whether it's at the community level, whether it's at the youth and student level, or what is at the national level. And it's part of the reason why I'm here to drive that kind of conversation for all of us, to participate. You, me, the audience, and Liberia, and Liberians in general.
Okay, Laraamand, thank you so much. But is my audio okay on your side?
Yeah, I'm hearing you clearly.
All right, good. I just don't want us to have audio problem. All right, good. But I didn't hear. I mean, maybe I wasn't listening correctly. Did you give your academic background a little bit so that people can know what you were working with?
I try to keep away from that a little bit, but I'm actually working on my second master's. I'm proud to be at this point in my life working on my second master's in peace and international relations, with emphasis in international law. I obtained my first master's in 2017 from the Lincoln University. It's a historical Black college, part of the HCPU for that matter, and it was an MBA. I think part of the problem is that we've always had a society, especially so as far as Liberia is concerned, where we amplify individual accomplishment over collective achievements. I'm willing to have a kind of conversation where if I stand out as a young man with so much educational credential, there should be serious hundreds of other young people standing out, with that same kind of credential. A society where everybody has equal access and equal opportunity. I'm from a background where I did not have it. I fought my way through, reaching to where I am, and I'm proud to be where I am. But I think more and more the focus has to be in creating that environment where a lot of our young people who aspire to do greater things, who have ideas and want to start a new business and want to be entrepreneurs, who are willing to defy the odds, regardless of what it is, that they can have that opportunity and chance to do the same as I did and fought my way through the backwardness of our nation, poor governance and all that stuff, and had to reach my way through this far.
All right, Laraamand, thank you. We personally, I'm elated. I'm happy to see, a young man at your age to be working on the second master's. That's pretty impressive. For me, one is enough. I'm not going any further than that. Yeah, so that's pretty good, man. Congratulations and keep on the good work. We need more conflict resolution aspects in Africa. Africa is always
all the stuff that's going on.
right. We need people that will get our people together. All right, so Mr. Nyonton, our conversation tonight, we agreed to talk about the PAPD, but before we start our conversation, right, I'd like you to do a little reflection here. You participated in 2017. I think it was electoral district number 12, Massarada County, and you were not successful. So I just want you to a little bit give us your experience of your participation during the 2017 presidential and congressional elections in Liberia.
Yeah, I know. From the context of those in the U.S., it's obvious. It's a congressional process. But for our laymen back home, it's a kind of legislative process. So depending where you are, is either Congress or Parliament or national legislature. In the case of Liberia, it is the national legislature. We embarked on the joining in 2017, just 2 years in the U.S. We're so passionate and so idealistic about change in our country. We've read so many historical and revolutionary literatures. We've seen how people transform societies just by ideas, and mobilizing, organizing, and galvanizing efforts of the masses of the people. And we thought that Liberia was at a crossroad in 2017, more than ever in our history, where the first in our history in terms of post-conflict democratic leadership who be ending 2 terms of his leadership. And there was a growing need for a new national sensation like we saw right after the Civil War in 2005. So more and more young people, especially those of us of the generation of the 80s, needed to get involved, not just to get involved in terms of exercising our democratic right as enshrined by our Constitution to vote, but also to be part of the process in terms of decision making. That meant having a seat on the table in the national legislature where young voices can be present, and advocate for youth empowerment, youth employment, advocate for health and education. And so that was the driving philosophy behind why I intended to run. It was not just about me, but I thought that I embodied a mass conscious generation, a mass pool of young people that believe that it's about time that we are actively involved in redirecting the focus of our nation, in being part of a national conversation that determines the fundamental direction of our country. And so when I announced my candidature, and probably I'm so grateful to your involvement and your expertise as one of those who were part of my exploratory committee. We decided to go back on the grind to get involved, to do grassroots mobilizing. So the experience overall was good. We raced to the end. We announced our candidacy at a time when in Liberia there was this growing level of doubts, growing level of stereotype about young people and their involvement into political sojourn. So a lot of young people before my pronouncement have been in the business of declaring their desire, declaring their interest in running for representatives and or other public offices. And when people rally around them, in no time, their support base realized that they were fake, realized that it was more of a shenanigan as opposed to a true desire for change. So they will back out of the process, consume whatever resources, that were pulled out, that were gathered around by supporters, to support their candidacy, and just walk away without giving any answer. So a lot of Liberians has second thought on young people, supporting young people in the political process. That was around the time I was running in 2017. So I had to prove to my support base that this is real, this is genuine, and I'm in it not because of me, but because of the Liberian people. And that played out.
Laraamand, I hate
Yeah.
to do that. I think the viewers they're complaining about your image. You are not visible. So is there a way that you can change your location? Maybe the angle you are sitting.
Is
It's
it
not.
looking like this?
Yeah, it looks better at least from my angle.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, for some reason you are in America as though you're in Africa. So.
Spare me all that, man. I try to. Let me see. All right. So I try to have this.
Yeah, I think it's far better
All
from
right.
the angle where you were. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
All right.
It's good. Yeah, you
Okay.
gotta elevate the camera a little bit if you can, please. There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
it's good now.
all right. So I can continue, right?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So yeah, it was the timing might have seemed right personally, but generally from a young person perspective, it was in the right because of the history of young people leading up to election before that time. So I had to convince the pool of my supporters that this was not about Nyonton. This was not about self-interest. This was not about anything else, but it was about Liberia and the kind of change that we wanted. And I had to go back on the ground. And I proved that. When I went back on the ground, there was this whole dynamics, with my involvement with the Congress for Democratic Change and the newly formed Coalition for Democratic Change involving the LPDP and the NPP and the CDC. And so when it was glaring that I could not run on the party ticket, I did not, I was not timid. I still continued to push to the end. I called my supporters and said, hey, this is not possible for a party, to run on the party ticket, the party that I supported since I've known myself in politics. But the bottom line is that we are still going to run. We're still going to race to the end. And we did that. We did that very effectively. And today we are proud that irrespective of what the results were, but we still have a pool of support base that still support our agenda.
Okay, but just to do a little follow, what I mean, do you know exactly or what you did wrongly that led to your relegation?
Well, I wouldn't use the word relegation, but I think to a larger extent, when I was with the party, there are a lot of different happiness, especially it's a different thing when you are not in the leadership of an institution, and seeing the institution from a different perspective, as opposed to when you get involved with the leadership and decision making. It's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
So when I had the opportunity of serving in the capacity of National Secretary General in the U.S., I came face to face with the CDC that I supported since 2005. I came face to face with the decision-making processes, with the thought processes and judgment of leaders within the party. I came face to face with real life situation that, on the contrary, ordinary partisans will not experience. And so we started to question some of the decisions that were made on behalf, not just on behalf of the party, but on behalf of the grassroots base that we represented, that we embodied. And some of the decisions and some of the hard questions that we asked led us to where we landed at the end of the day. Because when we went on the ground, we've been viewed as anti-progressive within the party. We've been labeled as traitors within the party, and we had a youth league of the party planted against us, in every form, shape, and manner, and all of that created the kind of scenario that eventually took place.
Yeah, but Laraamand, exactly, just be a little specific. What exactly did you say that went against the, I mean, should I say, interests of the party? What are some of the ideas you were pushing that the people found, I mean, they consider anathema?
Well, I've worked for a lot of development, international development, as well as nonprofit organizations. There's something that most of them have in common: accountability. Let's take accountability as a test case, right?
Right.
When you are given a project, executory, to manage a certain X amount of data, you have to execute it based on the planning of that project, based on the design of the project, based on the resources that are available for the project. And when you execute it, whether in your mind or in the general scope of the project. A successful project that has to be documented. And there are two ways in which you document it: programmatically and financially, right? So this is the money you give us, this is what we spend it, and this is the balance or this is the deficit. This is the program goal, this is the program objective, and blah blah blah. These are what we did in terms of the activities, right? That's
Right.
program. That cut into national as well as leadership and political life. We cannot have a party, and that's one of the things that I forget about. We cannot have a party where you have the diaspora chapter of the party that is a major income as well as fundraising generating arm of the party, where you have people in the diaspora, especially in the US, that work two jobs but still believe in the possibility, in the promise of hope for Liberia. And because they align with this political institution, that they believe that through this political institution, the realism, the idealism, the possibility of transforming the country is possible to them. So they work two jobs, they work three jobs. They donate their 1 cent and 2 cents and $2 and $100 and $100 and $200, right? To a process where they believe that as much as they work for the hard-earned money, they need accountability. I'm in leadership, and I see in the US how much our partisan go through. The only thing they ask is accountability on some of the funds that were remitted to Liberia. You know what people like Nathaniel McGill or people like Moba Molu will say?
No.
That the US chapter is heightened in a form and manner that is trying to bring the Liberia leadership into disrepute. That if you send $2, you don't got right to ask for accountability and report on the $2 after the $2 has been expended. So those were kind of like bread and butter issues. If you say that you are party of change and you stand for transparency and accountability, you have to practice it within. So the intra-political dynamics in the party did not reflect what the party was actually projecting at a national level. And those are the things that we're like kicking against in the party. And they label us as people so different from a different planet, as people who were anti-progressive within the party, and I was people who felt that we knew too much.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining me, this your honor voice is Sino. My special guest tonight is Ambassador Laraamand Nyonton, former congressional contestant, Maserati County Electoral District number 12. All right, so I just thought to ask some little questions with respect to his experience during the election. But our topic tonight, Laraamand, not to take up more time. I know I was part of your campaign team, like you rightly indicated. So I just wanted to get a little perspective, or the viewers to get a little perspective of what you. I mean, maybe we'll have another show to go in depth into that. But I'd like us to get to our subject discussion tonight, which has to do with the PAPD. All right, so somebody might be listening right now. They'll be like, "What the heck is PAPD?" So I just want you to explain it to the people, break it down. What is that?
Well, first of all, let me send this disclaimer, right? I come as an active citizen to this national discourse on the future of Liberia. I'm not for or against, but from a more objective standpoint, I want to have a conversation around the PAPD. So the PAPD is what the government of Liberia, the current government of Liberia, the George Weah administration, has said is its national strategy, national development agenda. It's titled Propel Agenda for Prosperity and Development. So that's what the PAPD stands for. But it's the national tool in the mind of the current leadership that can be used, that can be hardened to drive prosperity for all Liberians, irrespective of religious background, irrespective of ethnic background, irrespective of which part of the country you are. The fact that when the government of Liberia inherited the state, there was growing wave of poverty and abject poverty across the land. They said most of the poor people that constitute a growing number of our population has to have a policy that reflects that. So this is what the whole concept of the pro-poor and this whole idea of the theory of change that is inserted within the document. If you read the document black and white, this is where that whole idea came about.
Laraamand, give me a second, please. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Hey guys, just give me a second, please. Sorry about that. Hello, Laraamand. Are you there? Your screen is blank from my end here. All right, it's better now. See, okay, good. Yeah, so like as you were talking, I think Rich is asking when you during your introductory remarks, you said you are coming to discuss the PAPD from an objective perspective. So he's asking, after your relegation, I mean that's why you try. So you want to react to that comment?
And then you introduce that warrior, so everybody might follow in a way. But I wasn't relegated from the Congress for Democratic Change or the Coalition for Democratic Change. I left.
No, but the context of relegation, I was used by me, it was your competition because you were defeated, and that's what I meant, not from the party.
All right, well, I think from the context and Richard, you are open to further expand on the context of your question, but I think he meant from this within the CDC, relegation within the CDC. I did not, and yes, this true story because I hear a lot of my friends, within the party, within the CDC, argue that, I left the party because I was defeated in the primary. I did not go to primary. In fact, I resigned from the party in April, and the primary was supposed to have taken place in, I think, July or August of that year. So April, May, June, July, August, 4 months before the primary. That was when I left the party. So yeah, I made a conscious decision to leave and move on within my political sojourn.
All right, good. So I think Richard has another question for you again before we get to it. He said, when did you know that remittances that were generated by the diaspora Liberians not used to its fullest extent? And when did you start to hold local leadership feet to the fire, something like that? Yeah.
We've always been in the process of holding local leadership feet to the fire. Like I'm not a fanatic of Modern Salif. I was in Liberia for most of our leadership, and things we did in the youth and student community was about accountability and transparency, and ask people who know my record at the level of Linsu and Fly. We were very persistent and we're very adamant about what we needed for a whole generation of a population that happened to be young people that constituted more than 65% of our population, and for students who represented in local communities, in schools, in every facet of our society, that light of consciousness. So we've been very, very involved in holding leadership, national leadership, feet to the fire. Now, when it comes to joining a political institution, a political party, and ensuring that leaders are true to what they say in the fundamental document is a whole different thing. Now, you have to be in a position of leadership and power to understand what's really happening. Because for much of CDC, people who are not in a position of power are given mandate. So often you hear in the CDC, party mandate, party mandate. It's because they do not have a say into the broader context of decision-making processes within the party. So they have to follow whether they like it or not. They do not have a second choice. They do not have a second verse. We have to move our political institution from that kind of, pitiful scenario to where we build institutions based on ideas, based on ideological fundamental principles. That if we say we stand for justice, we truly stand for justice regardless of the situation. If we say we stand against corruption, we truly stand against corruption. We cannot be a party that stands against corruption, for example, but do business with people like Aristotle. How does it all play out to the larger society? So the point is that we've had a long history of bringing leaders, speaking truth to power, bringing leaders' feet to the fire. So as far as our engagement in national politics is concerned.
Yeah, so he has another question. You mentioned that CDC youth wing was pitted against diaspora progressives, and diaspora Liberians like you were even considered anti-progressive. Why was that so?
I think that, like, more and more, I know, Dinah, Richard, we can have more and more of that conversation, later on our ID on Facebook, and we talk about it so that we have the opportunity to go into why we're here. But it was not a symptom of, diaspora progressive versus, anti-progressive. Now, generally in Liberia, there is this whole, scenario where we have a tendency of segregation. Liberians that are in Liberia feel that because of lack of capacity and lack of opportunities, feel threatened by those of us in the diaspora that have the technical know-how, that have the experience and expertise and credential. When we get back home, there's an invisible rift that between the two groups, right? And this is by far because I experienced it, but a lot of Liberians have experienced this, right? So that invisible rift have permeated itself into every facet of our society, whether it's political, whether it's socio-economic, what is cultural. That has existed for a long time. So it's not just about the political context of it that happened within the CDC. This is something that has existed within the broader frame of our nation configuration. And this is something that we all have to work towards, bridging the gap and having a kind of crusade and campaign that help our brothers and sisters on the ground. That, like, unless you realize that we are partners in progress, unless you realize that those of us who are out of Liberia that care about you, as evident by the number of remittances that we send to our family members and friends, and political leaders and political parties, unless you realize that we can all work together for the transformation of our society.
Excellent. Okay, so if you're joining us, my special guest tonight is Laraamand Nyonton, the son of Sando County. From his introduction, he says from Joazon District, Sando County, so which is part of electoral district number 3. But during the 2017 presidential and congressional elections in Liberia, he participated in Mansurato County, district number 12. All right, so that's the distinguished young man we are talking to tonight. If you have questions, feel free, write your question. I'll put the number out there in a jiffy, and so that if you have something to say, if you don't want to write, you can still ask me your question. But our topic tonight, we are talking about the PAPD, which is the Pro Agenda for Prosperity and Development. All right, and that's the government of Liberia economic platform. All right. All right, so let get into that alignment. Let's get into that. So that's what we're about. So, but the PAPD has pillars. It has pillars. Yeah, so I want us to talk. Look, I mean, it's a voluminous document, and we can go into all the details tonight. And so I just extracted the basics, so that the basic it has 4 pillars. And so I want you to expand on the 4 pillars of the PAPD, and then we can the conversation can continue from there. So I want you to define what that means already. So I want you to maybe talk about the first pillar.
So, Exeter, thank you first. Before let's do this way, right? Before getting into the pillars, because I think the driving national strategy has to solve, or is developed in a way to solve a particular problem. And what is that problem? The problem of a failing economy. If you look at Liberia today, you realize that what we have on the Weah administration is a miserable state. Hello? Are you getting me? Hello?
All right. Yeah, there's a technical problem there. It was buffering a little bit, but right now we get.
Yeah, I wasn't hearing you. So if you look at Liberia today, what you have on the Weah administration is a miserable state. Now, there are no more.
You say it's a miserable state?
Yeah, a miserable state, right?
Oh, miserable. Okay.
Our people, and I'll come to that. Our people live in a state of misery, right? Now, there are a number of reasons to that. Number one, we are a nation that have been categorized as part of the group of 59 of the low-income developing countries, evident by the International Monetary Fund. Now, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, is not just arguing that we are below the global threshold in terms of our per capita income. What that means is that the average of what the earnings, the average income earning of a single individual, a single citizen, or head of household in a particular country, right? We're not just below that margin. But it takes Liberia as a country 4 times what it is right now, to double up 4 times what it is right now, in order for us to reach above the margin. That means what an average citizen has to spend. If you look at Liberia from the standpoint of standard of living, or the general living condition of our people, that is to say, our people in West Point, Wusi Quarter, New Kutan, Sony One, or just generally in slum communities, in urban areas, or deserted villages, and in rural areas. If you look at the standard of living and what the United Nations have said about the Human Development Index of Liberia, we fall within the lowest bracket of the last 10 in terms of Human Development Index. I think we are around 176 out of 180 nations. What we need to pull out of that is conscientious wealth, a political will, to invest in health, to invest in education, to fill the skill gap of our people, and to improve the standard of living. Now, I hear a lot of people say Liberia is rising. Just by a few campaigners who are hustling, on the purple government. I tend to agree with them. Liberia is rising. Liberia might be rising in key sector, in key aspect of the economy. Number one, we are up by 86% in terms of tax burden. We are up by 66% in terms of government spending. So when we have our national budget carved, our recurring expensive in terms of what the government going to spend, on gasoline and all this stuff, we are up by that amount. They have not said to us, the Liberian people, how much we are down in terms of the fiscal health of the economy, which is about 60 points. They have not said to us how much we are down in terms of judiciary effectiveness, in terms of labor freedom, which is down by 38%. They have not said to us how much we're down in terms of business freedom. The means through which a person with an idea who wants to start a business as an entrepreneur in Liberia, and the processes to go through, to get certification from different sectors, to get regulatory, certification and all of that. We are down by 48% with that. Government owns integrity towards upholding the fourth pillar, which we'll come to, in terms of transparency and accountability. We're down by 24%. The thing is that exploratory numbers ready to not lie. Like in mathematics, you say 1 + 1 = 2. In economics, you use empirical data and analysis to drive the composition. So even the 2020 Index of Economic Freedom Report, they said it clearly that the government of Liberia desire to reduce poverty, the desire to create new jobs, the desire to ensure that we can meet the crucial challenge of infrastructure needs of our people, the desire to develop the agricultural sector, because in the PAPD, that's one of the core focus areas, that they will do food processing, they will ensure food security for our people. The desire to do all of that cannot be met if we do not improve the business and investment climate in Liberia. What we have seen since the inception of the Weah administration is not even encouraging for investors to come in the country. Mysterious death, unaccounted for. You have either preliminary reports or investigations that are inconclusive. You have mass raping and domestic violence of our girls. You have a whole lot of political, social, and economic things going on that is not even just, conducive for investors. Our point has been is that we have to drive a serious national conversation, a serious national strategy, a serious developmental agenda that can adequately address all of the problems that we have now. Now, on the other hand, the government of Liberia is proposing to us that, hey, we've developed the proper agenda for development and prosperity. In my mind, personally, as a Liberian, as an active citizen, if you read through the document, you realize a couple of things. Number one is overly ambitious. Why? They promise to pull 1 million people out of poverty like some magical means through which they can do that. Two, if you go through the fundamental objectives, there are 2 fundamental objectives of the PAPD. If you go through those 2 fundamental objectives, you realize that it is either based on wrong premises or false promises. And this kind of document that seems more than likely a copy and paste document that does not in any way reflect the hopes and aspiration of the Liberian people cannot be the vehicle through which we can transform our country and pull our people out of poverty and create prosperity for the nation. And we maintain that the PAPD has been a failure, it's been a catastrophe, and now even the government itself realized that they're not even dealing with the PAPD. They're not dealing with it anymore. So yeah, we can come to the conversation of Pillar 1 and all of what it entails, but that has been our position. And that is the situation happening in Liberia right now.
Mr. Nyonton, I think there are interesting language you use, and I want us to, when you say the PAPD does not reflect the hopes and aspirations of the Liberian people. So if you read a document, for example, it talks about education empowerment of the people. It talks about road construction and stuff like that, infrastructure development. And because you said you came to the discussion objectively, and so I want you to do so objectively. So the question is, given the fact that the government has made all public or university and colleges free, in the country, you don't think it's a way of helping or developing the population of the country? You don't give credit to the government for that?
So I think the real question is, what is the PAPD saying? And then once we are able to contextualize what is it saying, and then we can match the government's action and response in terms of practicalizing and implementing what it's saying to have a fruitful conversation. But taking just one aspect of the government's endeavor versus their inability and lack of capacity to fulfill all of the other aspects.
Yeah, Mr. Yanto, I agree with you. It should be taken holistic, but like I said from the beginning, it's a voluminous document that has a lot of things in it. And so for you to say, the program is an abject failure, or is a miserable failure, to use your words. That I don't think you are speaking from the objective perspective. You sound like an opposition to the government, though.
Well, it is. I am an opposition, right? But again, I made that disclaimer that I came as someone objectively just looking at the PAPD. Now, let's categorize the PAPD. In addition to the 4 pillars of the PAPD, there are a number of promises within that document. There are a number of law-based frameworks within the document. Now, I will even look at the framework, the 3 pro-based framework, more than the 4 pillars. You know why? Because that drives the overall rationale of the document. You have social and economic development. You have pro-poor agenda. You have the national vision and process formed within the document. What has the government of Liberia said to us that between September 2018 for the next 5 years to 2022 will be happening for the people of Liberia? What have they said? I made reference of the Human Development Index. We are very low in terms of the standard of living. How do we address the standard of living of our people? We have to invest in education. Yes. What kind of investment in education is needed today in Liberia? Is it free university? Is it compulsory and primary education for our people? What kind of investment is needed today? When the government of Liberia, through President Weah, responded to the cries of the University of Liberian students that they were struggling, they were being put out of school for school fee, they responded through a romantic national policy that was not based on any source of data, that had no baseline, but based on the popularity context. How has that changed the educational spectrum of our country? We still have 82% of our students graduating from high school today without going to university. We still have that. We still have a chunk of our students graduating from universities and colleges across the nation without jobs. If you look at Liberia and compare Liberia to the sub-region or from the global perspective, there is a revolution that is taking place in education today. And you know of it. People are investing in commercialized research. The universities will go to. It's the Tubman University. It's the University of Liberia. It's the Cottington University. It's the AME University, which I graduated from, investing in commercialized research. No. People are investing, even at the middle school level in other countries. Take, for example, the US. They are now transcendent from test-based evaluation of students to conceptualize, to concept-based, based on the concept of what you can derive from the subject matter. That's why in the US, when you find someone who is at a middle school age level, they articulate very well than even people in Liberia at the university level. You understand it? So
Yes.
We have not reached the point of revolutionizing education.
Yeah, but Laraamand, I think we have to go ahead, and your thoughts. Sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
So just education, we have failed in education. Under the Weah administration, we have failed because what is paramount to transforming the education sector is not free university, which of all other things, it's not even based on empirical data and baseline analysis. That you came out and said that we're going to have free university for all students. They have not changed the fight. There are students who have free education do not have transportation to go to school, thereby making it impossible. Students who have free education do not have textbooks, thereby making it impossible. Students who have free education do not have LEC that's on and off to even do research on the different projects. The realism is that we have to invest adequately in education. And if we have to invest in education, there are a number of things that we have to do. Number one, we have to increase our overall national spending on education as a percentage of our GDP. That's what we have to do first. What is the government overall national spending on education? As reflected in our national budget today, we are far below the global standard of 25%. If we want a country that will produce leaders of tomorrow, we're not investing in leaders today that's supposed to be leaders of tomorrow, we are going nowhere. We have to revolutionize education in Liberia to the extent that we have to close schools like BTOTC, we have to close NVTC, we have to close all technical and vocational educations. We have to empower multilateral high schools and bring back vocational and technical education back to high schools, so that students who are graduated from high schools today can have the requisite skill set to engage the economy. They will not just be good for nothing paper totals that you got one certificate and say you're a high school graduate, but with all that you can't do anything. We have to make sure that we incentivize our universities. Most of our universities are based on the art courses. I went to AMU. That's not agricultural college. And maybe the University of Liberia try a little bit. You got colleges you got economic, you got public administration, you got management. Those are art courses, right? The current configuration of the economy today is not asking for more accountants. We have them in abundance. Some people that graduated since 1999 before us, when we're in the ninth grade, they say that they haven't found a job. When I was running for public office in Liberia, I met a guy who graduated from Cottington University since 2009. I graduated 2013. They may graduate since 2009. They may have not even found a job. You understand it?
Yeah.
What he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in management. You understand it?
Yes.
The economy is not asking for what our universities are producing. So we have a serious problem right there. It's not about paying people school fee to go do more accounting, to go do more management, to go do more economic. It doesn't add up. You have to do a serious case analysis and assessment of the situation. You have to understand what the situation is. You have to bring employers to the table as stakeholders and say, look, what are you guys looking for? You have to reach out, open your economy to foreign direct investment and say, look, let's take, for example, in Sano County, Golden Florida, they're coming to the country. What are you guys looking for? What the technical expertise you want in Liberian that we can produce? We work with our universities and produce those citizens that have the requisite knowledge and skills and aptitude to compete within the job market. We lacking all of that. That is why we say we have serious skills gap in Liberia. Serious one. That even our university graduates today, they don't have the kind of requisite skill to compete within a larger job market. So just pronouncement that you're going to have universities free doesn't solve all of the problems, bro. It doesn't solve anything. We have to revolutionize the education sector, starting from high school by returning vocational and technical education back to universities, by incentivizing them, by giving them subsidy, so that even like 9 months or 1 year ago, people that graduated from AMU or UMU or Cottington with degrees in management and economic can go back for a quick impact 9 months program in some technical directed areas so that they have a space in our economy. Because our economy has shifted dramatically. It has shifted to an economy that is based on the extractive industry. Most of what we export is based on the gold and the iron ore and the rubber that we have. If Liberia should industrialize, if we should have manufacturing companies and manufacturing jobs coming, we need people with the technical know-how and expertise to perform those jobs. So that is the real investment we need in education.
Yeah, Mr. Nyonton, good. I'm following you, and you're making a lot of sense. But I mean, you're talking about radically revolutionizing the whole system, and what that means is it's cash intensive. You don't have the cash, but you're talking about revolutionization of the whole thing, going back to the foundation. So if you were asked where would you take the money from to do to carry on that revolution, what would you say?
It's easy. It's not difficult, right? We entrust people that we elect to have control over how we breathe and what laws we live on, what policies we live on, what kind of taxes are imposed on us. That's why once in every 6 years, that's what we do. When we elect representatives and senators, president and vice president, that's what we do. So we are giving you guys the constitutional mandate to decide how we live. Decision at that level in terms of how the government generates its revenue, in terms of how the government pays senior level employees. Let's take, for example, if we decide, even in the PAPD, right, the government is contemplating in their document, in their own document, they said we are going to, and it's part of one of the promises, the 4 promises. They said we're going to rationalize how we do public expenditure. They said they're going to rationalize it. Are we rationalizing it today? How much is the Minister of Finance making as opposed to a police officer? How much is a senator, or let's take Irish senator from there, the Senate pro tempore, or the Speaker of the House? How much budget does he control as compared to an average civil servant that does all the work? You understand it? We can raise the money just from cutting down our national expenditure, our wasteful spending, the money the president spent on his girlfriends, the money the president spent on his useless travel and carrying 54 to 100 people on that travel.
when they come into the United Nations, just in 2018, they brought almost 75 persons that had no strategic role to play at the United Nations. But he just brought in just to see how America looking. If we start to reduce wasteful spending.
Laraamand.
Yeah.
You want to hold a second? We want to hold a second here. I think we'll have a call coming in here. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Anthony Fier, and I'm joining you from my home in Eagan, Minnesota.
Okay. What is your take?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you for the show.
Okay.
And I see that the conversation is going on very informatively, and I thought to participate.
Okay.
I joined 10 minutes ago, and I pick a few things, and I just want to make my contribution. Comrade Nyonton talked about the PAPD.
Okay.
I believe that is the major subject of discussion.
Yes.
And one thing I pick up there is that the PAPD is based on either false promises or false data. And I think I picked that up. And I just want to speak to that. And what I think is that the PAPD, I read that document, and it may surprise you to be hearing from me that I'm impressed with the level of work being done in terms of the literature. There is vision in that document. In other words, the document spells out what the government intends to do. And it's one of the brilliant documents that I have seen in terms of national development. And I won't hesitate to give it to those that crafted the document. Maybe because I am a guy who is always thrilled with the eloquence of any written document. But not only that I am thrilled with the language in it, but I think there are some things in there that if the government can muster the political will that Nyonton talked about in following through on the things that they itemize in that document that they would do, I'm not going to say Liberia will be in a better place, but at least, in my opinion, many people will start to hope, that things might get better one day. Unfortunately, despite the good intention expressed in the document, the things being itemized in the document, the government is completely more like doing the opposite in terms of implementation. There is this boring saying now in Liberia, in the Liberian community, that, implementation is our problem. It is so true. It is so true, and it's so true, especially with our current administration. Now, you're talking about the type of people out of it. And there's a very, very ambitious goal. But if you mention a huge ambition, ambition expressed in that document with the effort being made, you will get to understand that in you cannot be talking about lifting 1 million people out of poverty in a period of 6 years or 12 years, and then we don't have the effort that are needed to make that happen. We have a youthful population that you're trying to emphasize here. So the area of agriculture that we will all talk about, what is the significant effort being done there to convince people who are following to say, oh yeah, at least they are making serious efforts, since agriculture seems to be an opportunity for most of the young people. I have had the opportunity of interviewing Peter Beeman and Isaac Doe, who are deputy ministers at the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and they have a very unique program there called the TVER program. And the budget, the yearly budget there will surprise you, my friend, is 80,000 United States dollars for the whole republic.
Oh, wow.
80,000 dollars is insignificant for a country like Riverfest, before talking about the whole country. And so if you match the government's ambition with implementation and also the budget that they have set aside to do these things, that's where I want to agree with Nyonton that, the government is failing. Because if you say you will lift 1 million people out of poverty, we should see it in your budget. And we don't see it in the government budget. If you look at the president budget, if you look at the budget set aside for security, and if you look at what is being set aside for youth empowerment in the country, you see that huge gap and contradiction. And so we can say that the government priority is actually not agriculture because they require a map for agriculture. The government is not meeting that percentage. Nyonton talk about education is the same thing. The government is not meeting that percentage. In fact, if you look at the budget critically, you will realize that the government allotment for education compared to what was being allotted for education in the Ellen Johnson administration, this has dropped. It has dropped. And that can be said in most of the sectors. So I want to agree with Nyonton that the government, in terms of the implementation of the Pro agenda, no, they're not doing well at all, and I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is the fact that, the document as being crafted was based on,
plagiarism,
false data and all that. I don't believe that. Now, even if you look at Joe Biden plan that he put together on his website, almost like bullet point, not more specifics. Because when you do because the document is like a proposal. Now, when you come to the implementation phase, then you craft the implementation, or lines, for each to get everything running on the ground. And the CDC is yet to get there. So let me make my final point on education specifically. You talk about the government, making available funding for tuition. They call it tuition-free colleges and universities.
Right.
And why it's true that we heard about this pronouncement. Nyonton was right. It was not properly thought through. It was more like, a pronouncement for the president to be celebrated, and that's why it was. But the idea was brilliant. I mean, Liberia is full. So if we can have our universities and colleges free, that's a brilliant idea. Such an idea must be backed with the necessary funding. Did the government sit down to plan that? No. The education minister will tell you that. Did they consult with the legislator, to do that? No. They will tell you they did not do that. So, I mean, it was just a pronouncement for the president as, he would love to be celebrated on everything. And that was the goal. But now they are trying to make effort to make it happen. That is why they are having these challenges. I told you earlier, the budget for all the educational institutions have dropped. All the institutions. Thomas College, at some point, the instructors there threatening, to lay down their charge. They will not be paid for some time. So if we can agree that the colleges are being made free, then the issue of, teachers' salary shouldn't be a problem. But that is a problem now because the funds that the institutions were raising from students, they're not getting it. Also, the government has dropped its allotment for education or all of the educational institutions. So we have a problem. So the only thing the government can boast about is that, okay, we provided or we have made the university and colleges tuition free. But the quality now has declined significantly because what the students were contributing was adding to a little more quality because the teachers at least could get paid. They could get other things, for them to be able to keep the school running. And so I agree with Nyonton on the overall that, yes, the PAPD for now it's a failure. we can only hope that the government can be, strong enough to make all the effort it needs to make to get the country going. But other than that, we are completely far from where we need to be. Now, let me get a little bit political here. Current government, I know it is campaign time, but look at how much effort, visible effort that has been made in Montserrat County to elect a single senator. You see, like, all hands are on deck. For the election of Thomas Fala, as though when Thomas Fala is elected, Liberia, numerous problems will come to an end. We saw similar effort with Joseph. He has been in the Senate. We've been having all the economic woes and paralysis all over the place. So the CDC have projected itself that it has strength, but where they are directing the strength, they are directing the strength to the election of an individual. You see twice on the field, you see Margaret campaigning here and there, they're giving out money. It is visible everywhere. Imagine if they were doing that when it comes to agriculture. Imagine if they were doing that when it comes to education. The only song they tell us that, oh, we provided free tuition, YFE is free. That is not enough. Education is the foundation of Liberia's future. And if you look at the effort they're making and you compare that with the effort they've made with Thomas Fala, you see, where their interest lies. They just want to be able to hold on to power.
Okay,
whether or not that will translate into development and translate into upliftment of our people, I don't think the CDC is making that effort to get us there. I mean, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity, and also Nyonton for agreeing to be on your platform and for his excellent deliberation. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much. Nyonton, any reaction to what you just heard?
Yeah, I think he agreed with me 80% of what I said. But let's talk about the data. The government of Liberia, through the PAPD, inserted two basic objectives. The first objective is based on building a capable and trusted state institution, right? Building capable and trusted state institutions. They used data from 2000 to 2015, consistent with the Human Development Index. You know why they now use data of 2016, 2017, 2018? No. Because those data showed Liberia decline in terms of the livelihood of our people, the standard of living of our people, the health conditions of our people. So they used data that were favorable to them already. All right, the favorability of the data used in the PAPD can justify why the premises of even Objective 1 is based on wrong premise. We do not really need trusted institutions. We have already had, for the last 12 years, in the first elected government since post-war Liberia, under Malan Salif, we've already had these institutions created. We had the General Auditing Commission created. We had the LACC created. We had the Governance Commission created. These are anti-graft institutions bent towards ensuring transparency and accountability within the public sector. What we needed is reinforcements of these institutions. It's not the creation of them. It's not whether we trust them or not. They are there. We trust them already. I think the concern was consolidating on the existence of these institutions that are already existed. When Weah came to office, what he did, the first thing he sent Namadiki to the Governance Commission. They met Salah there, he rumbled his way through and all that stuff. Then he wanted to go to NEC. When there was large public outcry, they said, oh, no, let me stay to LACC. Today, even as Liberians from all walks of life bewail the government and their president that they elected. Where is Nambudiki? He's still at LACC. It's not because we don't have capable anti-graft institutions. It's not that we don't trust them. But it is a system designed to undermine in the same government that is talking about impeto full transparency and accountability to undermine their own selves. That's what we have. So when we argue that based on the data used in the PAPD, is the entire rationale of objective 1 is based on false premise. And we have proven it. Let's go to objective 2. What are they arguing? They say they want to provide greater income security for 1 million Liberians. That means that they're capable of pulling 1 million Liberians out of poverty. Is this not overly ambitious? How? They have not told us. What mechanism and methodology they will use, they have not told us. The only thing we see is Aose, Amanda under the sacrament tree. That's not how the young people that converge on the sacrament tree will get employment when they do not have the skill set, when they do not have the qualification. So how are you going to do this? This is not kind of a magic or something. You don't protest your way through development. You don't amanda your way to your way through, transformation of the society. It has to be logically planned and executed. It has to be based on findings, baseline findings, empirical data. The PAPD lacks all of that, given the 2 primary cardinal objectives of the PAPD. Nothing. Like, it's an empty document. It's an empty document. Like, the substance of the document from the objectives. The objective will tell you clearly how we're going to do this. And the different steps, the activities, implementing the activities that we're going to use to there's no document, there's no national strategy, and that's why the Weah administration reverted. They reverted from even following the blueprint of the PAPD and on something different, contrary to all of what they say in the document. So yeah, Anthony, I agree with you. The document is nicely rated because it could have been anybody can do a nicely rated document from Google and copy and paste, but it cannot be compared to the one that we saw in Ethiopia or in Kenya when it comes to development-driven and people-centered agenda. Now, there's one thing I want to add here, right? That's historic. Now, there is 3 broad framework of the PAPD. The third has to do with the national visioning. You know what they told us? They said, look, this is our vision that we have. It's not just unique to us. It's not in isolation. It's consistent with ECOWAS Vision 2020. It's consistent with the African Union 2063 vision. It's consistent with the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. Yeah, so, you can compare what we got with all of these different visions. But go into it, go in depth into what let's take, for example, the African Union. That's what it is saying. The African Union is arguing that, hey, we need social economic transformation of the African people. And one of the ways we can achieve that is through inclusive economic agenda. The PAPD got inclusive economic agenda in the PAPD document. They got it there. You know how they say they're going to achieve inclusive economic agenda? You know how they said it? They said, through equitable distribution of our national wealth. That's all. Nothing else. Through equitable.
You don't think that fair enough?
No, that's historic. You can question things because you know why?
Yeah, but the resources.
You're not just an ordinary person. You're philosophical. So you have to question. So if you have equitable distribution, how does that happen? I don't know what mechanism, I don't know what framework does that happen. I don't know what framework does that happen. You said,
let me play the devil's advocate here then. Let me play the devil's advocate. So, the question you're asking, it could be that how do you do it? It could be that, okay, since you have many of our people, they are not economically okay. The first place to start is to have the various schools, at least government schools, to be free. because that way you have more of the poor people, maternelle and pape toa children, they will be able to have access to advanced education. I mean, you're talking about funding, that's another aspect of it. But the first thing we have to do is to open the corridor for the poor children to be absorbed in the system. Okay, so also one can also say it makes sense for the government to devise a scheme where these children that can have full to defray their wire fees for the government to foot that bill. It also makes sense empowering the people as well for the government to devise a strategy where the children will be tutored, which the government are doing. So if you look at the recent result from the WACS examination, I think, I mean, compared to prior performances, the country, I mean, this year the children did well. So we can say that the PAPD, to understand or the economic or the academic pillar of it, it seems to be working a little bit. We can give the government credit in that area.
Okay, so the economists that are watching the show would bear me witness, right? When we talk about equitable distribution of our national wealth, it is based on a national growth strategy. Now, our argument has always been that we cannot have a national growth strategy in the absence of people growth strategy. And if we were to have a national growth strategy, that means that we have to take into consideration the expansion of major sectors within the economy. Because by expanding these sectors, take for example, the government priorities within the PAPD has been agriculture, has been about food security, has been about like how we can do food processing right at home, right? Where is the investment in agriculture today since the Weah administration took over? Where is the percentage of our national investment in agriculture as compared to our national, our GDP? As a percentage of it, we are not investing in agriculture, even though in the document we say, yeah, we're going to do that. You understand what I'm saying? So it takes into consideration how we expand sector. Another example is that if you look at the Liberia labor force, right? If you look at the Liberia labor force, 90% of our labor force falls within two sectors, two major sectors, agriculture and the service industry. You understand here? Agriculture and the service industry. 70% agriculture, 20% the service industry. Those are the areas where you find most jobs. So if most people are unemployed and you want to employ them and get them into the pool of employment opportunities, those are the two areas. Those are the two major focus areas first before anything else. That's how you get people involved. You understand it? Now, what is happening in the two sectors? It's almost dead. Service industry. How many Liberian-owned businesses are investing into service like hospitality, restaurants, hotels, and how you call it, resorts? How many? I can name them. I can name them. The last time I went to Liberia, I was to this hotel. This guy from Unity Party that just won the Unity Party chairmanship position, right? Better Casa is a Liberian-owned hotel, right? Hospitality management.
Okay.
You want to know what happened? Right before you drive to Better Casa, right to City Hall, you know how many hotels you can pass before reaching Better Casa? You can pass 3 or 4 hotels. Most of the hotels are owned by Lebanese. So you know what's happening right now? The Lebanese are just moving from merchandise, import and export. They are going to other sectors to dominate other sectors within the economy. So if you're arguing that, hey, we want our people, we want to build a broad-based consensus when it comes to economic development so that our people can be part of it, it's not just about paying wire school fee. It's infinitesimal. Very infinitesimal. We have to be real about the things we have on paper versus the things we are doing, to actually alleviate our people from poverty.
Laraamand, I agree with you, but I think we cannot relegate, we cannot diminish the importance of the educational sector, that pillar. You got to understand here, before them, you have to be maybe the rich child or rich man or rich woman, or son or child to get certain or to get at least access to the University of Liberia. It was scarce for the indigenous people, So imagine that program remains in place, and then another administration comes and continue with that. If you see countries around the world that are doing good, that are competing right now, I understand you're talking about hospitality and those things. They all tie into education, and so all we have to do is, why it is true that George Weah program has some lapses in them or in the program, but we can work on that program to get more of the children or the citizens of Liberia to get education, to get formal education. Because once we do that, Laraamand, I guarantee you, because China and America, they are not competing because they get more population. They're competing because they have more educated people. And so to play the devil's advocate, I think that's what George Weah and those guys, they are targeting the sector. I mean, they have other areas in the agenda, what the PAPD, you're talking about agriculture, which I think is very essential, but it still ties into education. Because once you have people educated in that area, you spoke of agriculture program at the University of Liberia. So imagine we'll have more people graduating from there. You wouldn't, sometimes, as a matter of fact, you might not need the government to intervene, because once people get the knowledge, they can create, they'll be innovating and stuff like that. And so I think we have to pat the government on the back with respect to the education program. Can we agree on this?
No, I can't agree. Education as a single focus sector within the economy is never mentioned as a priority within the PAPD. It's never. So it's outside the blueprint of the first thing. Outside, totally outside of the blueprint. Read the PAPD, the lengthy pages of document. Read it. Education is not even mentioned. That's one. Now we talk about education because the value we bring to education. So even if they want to talk about education within the PAPD, let's have that conversation. But it's never mentioned as a priority focus within the PAPD. Number two, the government talk about investing in what they call the public quality, giving public quality investment in infrastructure, right? Public quality investment in infrastructure, meaning that they will expand seaports and airports. Instead of that, what are we seeing? Building a small markets here and there, building a community roads, right? That cannot be equated to public quality investment in infrastructure. You know, the government is doing everything against the very written document that they have. There is no way we can grade the government on the basis of the white and black inscription of the PAPD written document. All of the 4 pillars are very clear within the PAPD. You say power to the people. There are systematic things that you outline that will give power to the people. You talk about reducing maternity fertility rate, right?
Right.
In Liberia, I think it's around 66 to 100,000 deaths, right? Pregnant women that go to hospitals are accounted for, right? Those are the ones documented. Think about the ones that are not even documented, because the ones that are documented, they go to hospital, is almost like a death sentence. They die from simple, complication that can be cured at little or no cost. Our women are dying in pregnancy more than any time we can imagine, even more than even during the wartime. Our women are dying. Some of them even prefer today in Liberia to give birth in the house or to go to a community nurse. In your PAPD document, you say, hey, this is a problem. We're going to fix this problem. We're going to reduce the number of people dying just from pregnancy. Have the government done that? They are made way into the PAPD in terms of how we assess document based on the rating nature of it. You say 5 years. If you're going 2.5 years, you have not even achieved a major component or 50 or 60% of what the document says is going to achieve. The document is a failure.
No, but Laraamand, I want us to do justice to the government here. You said the document does not talk about school or education. Let me read just pillar 1 here. Pillar 1, where it talks about power to the people. It says here, many years of crisis undermine the advances made in human capacity development in Liberia, ranging from hundreds of thousands of deaths to internal displacement and out migration of skills labor into the diaspora. Going forward, human capacity development in Liberia must cut across various social sectors, and the government of Liberia is the mean duty bearer. It wanted to say it must also cut across gender with the exigency of addressing historic and systemic abuses against women at home, in the workplace, and in the political arena. It said, therefore, reducing out of school rates, okay? Reducing out of school, the word school is mentioned there. Reducing out of school rates and increasing retention and completion rate for girls, while raising minimum education infrastructure standards for boys and girls and ensuring appropriate responses to gender-based violence. I mean, so the word education and school, I mean, those things are mentioned. So I just want us to be objective. We shouldn't come from an opposition perspective.
No, I'm being objective, right? So the document, and you just read it, capacity building is used in a broad term. But then in a specific term, they talk about out of school rate for girls. Out of school rate for girls. So, it means that the number of girls disproportionately in Liberia today that are in school as compared to the male counterpart has to be improved on. Okay. Now, when we talk about a general national education strategy, there are two ways we can look at that. One is on the basis of affordability, which in some part the government has directed step towards with the free education, university education, and all that stuff, right? And two, in terms of quality. So what you just read spoke to an aspect of quality in our educational sector that has to be dealt with. Holistically, there is nothing in the PAPD that talks about education holistically, and you just read it. That talks about like the education sector has to be revamped. We have to look towards curricular harmonization as opposed to salary harmonization. We have to talk about how we can revolutionize education in Liberia. We have to start spending money on VTOTC and MVTC and TVEC institutions and take that money that would pump into Ministry of Youth and Sports and give it to Ministry of Education. How do we do that? There's no national conversation driven on that. There is nothing.
Mr. Nyonton, I want to interrupt you there because if you say that let's look at salary or harmonization, for example, I think harmonizing or streamlining the various payments of people that work in different departments. If people they have disparity in payments, or you are janitor in the senator office and the other person is the janitor in the president's office and they're making different salary, I mean, it's not fair. So streamlining those things will save the government some money. And you are talking about education, that money that will be saved because that's the purpose of the harmonization, so they can save some money and that redirect that funds into other programs. So I don't want you to denigrate some of those programs on political grounds.
You see, the problem is the problem, right? Now, after the harmonization, what did we see? In fact, even staffers within the first branch of government, and we're seeing there are a lot of footages all circulating on social media. I can send you some of them. All right, came together. They called the chairman on Ways, Means, and Finance and the entire committee. They returned that. They sat right there and had this conversation. They said, no, when you told us about this harmonization, Yes, I'm going to cut across everybody. But today, only the staffers are affected. You guys who are the bishop, you guys are not affected. You understand here? That's how impartial, that's how partial and inequitable the entire harmonization process was. It affected the least of civil servants, of public servants on the ladder, as opposed to those at the top. You understand it? We need to see a linear scale in terms of salary reduction. And salary reduction must not be just limited to what you make in terms of maybe your Liberian salary versus your US salary. No. Let's go to the speaker. I understand the speaker make about 29 million. They reduce it from 29 to 19. To me, it is still exorbitant. What 1 million will be doing of office of 19 million? He got equal staff as any other representative. A representative get 18 or 19 staff. You understand it? He got to see 18 or 19 staff. Most of them are ghost names right on there. You ain't paying for coke. Maybe he lay cousin or niece that he paying school fee for will be cooking for him. That money goes into his pocket. There are many things that he's not paying for. He's not paying for research. He's not paying for plenty of other positions within the rank and file of his staff living. But he controls 19 million of taxpayer money. Let's be real about this harmonization. They harmonize the president's budget. They harmonize the speaker budget. They harmonize the chief justice budget. Before we reach the salaries of ordinary civil servants, then we know the government is ready to cut down and rationalize, as it's enshrined in their own document. They will rationalize public expenditure. Like, that's a major phrase there. Rationalize. It means that you say, like, this doesn't make sense. This is the new way. It makes sense. And since this don't make sense, it will benefit the masses of the Liberian people. They have not reached that point. From point A to point C is a simple logical step that we have to follow. They have not reached that point of following it. Hello? Esoteric, you there?
All right, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, so now the feedback, so I can cover my microphone. I'll put it on mute a little bit so that you'll be able to. Yeah, so Mr. Nyonton, you've been on for a while, and I don't want to keep you all night. I think you give me 2 hours. But before I'll let you go. Is there one or two things that the government is doing correctly that you can tell us, or everything is just wrong?
Objectively, and I don't want to come across like I did not hail the idea of the free university education, free tuition for struggling masses of our students. I don't want to come across as one who did not hail the idea, even though we might have had a reservation with regards to the context and all of the necessary things that had to be done before reaching to the conclusion of having that as a policy prescription. But it's something that we can hail regardless. Listen, I was in Liberia and I was in AMU. I dropped from college 6 times because simply my parents did not have the kind of resources to sustain me in school. So I understand how it is for average student without a name, without contact within the system, without no family support or second hand. I understand what it is when people have to drop out of school, out of college, out of university, semester after the other in order to continue their educational sojourn. So it's something that I think it was laudable on the part of the government. I think what every time we have the opportunity where the president appears on a program and proclaim, that becomes a national policy. So that was a national policy tie around education. I think what the people at the Ministry of Education could have done was to ensure that the president policy becomes a national policy. And there are two ways you can do that. You turn that into a program agenda and seek funding for it. There are a lot of development partners. You have UNESCO, you have the EU, you have USAID. You turn that into a development agenda as part of the PAPD and raise funding for that. So in that way, you don't have to go back to the national budget and strain the already strained and stressed national budget to look for ways in which you can make true the president pronouncement at the University of Liberia and across all of the the technical university and tertiary institutions. So we laud the effort, we laud the pronouncement, but there are a couple of systematic steps that had to be taken further that the government has not taken into consideration, and that is overall causing a backlash on the program itself. Esoteric. Hello? I'm not hearing you if you hear me. Hello? Hello, I lost my host. I think I lost the host. Hello?
In on HDMI 1RF button 1 of 10 in main menu in main in settings network in network now button 1 of 4 network name.
All right, guys. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the technical break. My it's for technology. Sometimes they just go off abruptly. Yeah, but I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Or for we'll be back tomorrow to talk about other things. I had a guest tonight on the show, and that's why other things that I wanted to talk about I didn't discuss them. But I want to say thanks to all of you. The Father. I'd like to say thanks a lot to my special guest tonight, Laraamand Nyonton, for taking your time to come and talk to us. With that being said,